Welcome to Fairy Tale Nights. I'm so glad you've joined us this evening. Tonight, we'll take you on a journey into a magical fairy tale designed to help you relax and drift off into a peaceful sleep. Tonight's enchanting story is the timeless tale of Snow White, a tale of beauty, bravery, and the triumph of good over evil. Before we begin, I invite you to find a comfortable place to lie down. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let all the tension in your body melt away. Imagine yourself in a lush, green forest where the air is fresh and the birds sing sweetly. Allow yourself to fully relax and embrace the soothing power of tonight's fairy tale. If you enjoy our stories and want to hear more bedtime tales that help you unwind and find restful sleep, please consider subscribing to our channel. Your support means the world to us and ensures we can continue bringing you these relaxing stories. Now, let's begin our tale for tonight, the magical and enchanting story of Snow White. Enjoy listening and sweet dreams. Chapter 1. Mirror, Mirror. Once upon a time, a princess named Snow White lived in a castle with her father, the king, and her stepmother, the queen. Her father always reminded his daughter that above all else, a royal family must be fair. Said he, people from all over the land come here to the castle with disputes. They need their ruler to hear each side and make a decision that's fair. Queen, Snow White's stepmother, knew how important being fair was to her husband. She asked her magic mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all?" "Snow White is the fairest of them all," said the magic mirror. "What?" shouted the queen in surprise. "No one is more fair than I. The queen must be the best at everything. What's more fair than that? Snow White is the fairest of them all," asserted the magic mirror again. The queen shook her fists. "What do you know? You're a mirror." And she stormed off. Still, the queen was bothered. So bothered that the queen decided to be rid of the girl once and for all. "I cannot wait another day," she decided. Queen called for her servant, a huntsman. "Find a reason to take Snow White deep into the woods tomorrow," she said, pointing her long fingernail at the servant. "And kill her." The huntsman was shocked. But she was the queen, what could he do? The next day, he took Snow White into the woods. As he drew his knife to slay her, Snow White turned around. "Look," she said, taking something out of her pocket. She held in front of him 6 perfect animal shapes carved of wood. "Do you like them?" she said. "I made them for you." "Snow White," said the huntsman, "I cannot do this." "Of course, you must accept these. They are a gift," said Snow White. "That's not what I meant," said the servant. "How can I say this? The queen, your stepmother, ordered me to kill you." The huntsman dropped to his knees. "But I cannot." "She what?" Snow White called out with alarm. "You must run away," said the huntsman. "Far away now, and never come back to the castle." Snow White turned and ran into the woods as fast as she could. Chapter 2: The Dark Woods. Deeper and deeper into the darkening woods she ran. Wolves were starting to howl. She tripped and tore her skirt but kept running. Tall tree branches seemed to reach down to the very ground to grab her, but she kept running. She was scratched, bleeding, and scared, but ran on till she could run no more. All of a sudden, a blink of light appeared far in the distance. Who would live so deep in the woods? She stepped up closer to the light. It came from a cottage, yet no sound came from the cottage, only the flickering light from the windows. "Hello," she said, knocking softly on the door. "Hello?" No answer. The door was a little bit open. She opened it some more and stepped in. "Is anyone home?" She looked around. What a mess. She had never seen such an untidy space. This cottage may look like a disaster, she thought. But it's a roof over my head. Maybe if I clean up around here, I can earn my stay tonight. As she cleaned, she thought of someone. Before her father married the queen, her stepmother, she and a prince who lived in a nearby kingdom were spending time together. When he visited, they would take walks in the royal garden, tell each other stories of life at court, and laugh at all the oddities that was the life they led. However, once her father remarried, the stepmother made a new rule: no more visitors. "It wasn't seemly," she said in a firm voice. Now the prince had to slip over the castle gate in secret. The prince would call out to her from under her bedroom window, and they could talk a bit that way. They had to keep their voices low, so it wasn't as good as walking in the royal garden. But it was the best they could manage. She fretted. If she never returned again to the castle, would she ever see him again? What would he think of her when he came to visit and she was no longer there? Chapter 3: What kind of magic is this? After Snow White cleaned up the living room, she climbed a ladder to the attic. Upstairs, 7 little beds, sized as if for children, were lined up in a row. Tired from cleaning, Snow White yawned and lay directly across all 7 beds. Exhausted, before she could even stretch out her arms, she was fast asleep. In the meantime, the 7 dwarfs were headed home from a long day of working in the jewel mines. When they opened their door, you can imagine their surprise when their cottage glistened with cleanliness. "What kind of magic is this?" said one of the dwarfs, rubbing his eyes in disbelief. He was grumpy. "I wouldn't mind more magic like this," said another of the dwarfs with a grin. He was dopey. "We better check the attic," said another dwarf, whose name was Doc. "Something is strange around here. Take my word for it. We better be prepared for anything. Well, we might as well go upstairs and see what we find." Much to their surprise, lying across all their beds was a young lady with a sweet face, fast asleep. "Who are you?" said all the dwarfs at once. Snow White bolted awake. The 7 dwarfs could tell she was as surprised as they were. When everyone calmed down, they started to tell their stories. Snow White learned their names: Bashful, Duck, Dopey, Grumpy, Happy, Sleepy, and Sneezy. She told them about life in the castle, and her stepmother, that her stepmother had tried to get the huntsman to kill her, that the huntsman had told her she must escape into the woods, and that she could never go back home again. "Stay here with us," said Bashful. "How nice of you," said Snow White. "But if I were to stay here, I would have to do something for all of you." "You already cleaned up," said Sneezy, and then sneezed. "Oh dear, there's more dusting to do," said Snow White. "We could all make the house even tidier and keep it that way as long as everyone pitches in. I can let everyone know what part they can do, and I will do my share too, of course." "That's fair," said Happy. "There must be something else I can do for you," said Snow White. The 7 dwarfs shrugged. "Do you know how to read?" said Doc. "We have books with wonderful pictures and would love to be able to read them." So it was agreed that Snow White would teach them all to read. To celebrate their new friendship, Snow White and the 7 dwarves sang and danced the night away. Chapter 4. Do Not Open the Door. The next morning before they left for work, the 7 dwarves warned Snow White she must not open the door to anyone. After all, who knows what evil her stepmother might do? The princess nodded, and the dwarves left the house. The princess prepared her first reading lesson. She also prepared a good hot meal for the 7 dwarves for when they returned home later that night. And so the day passed. Back at the castle, the queen marched up to her mirror. "Mirror, mirror on the wall," she demanded, "who is the fairest of them all?" "Snow White is the fairest of them all," said the magic mirror. "That is impossible," screamed the queen. "The girl is no longer alive." "Snow White lives," said the magic mirror, and an image on the mirror showed Snow White living in the cottage of the 7 dwarfs. The queen filled with rage. She screamed, "Who does she think she is? Snow White will not get away with this." Queen concocted a devious plan. She decided to disguise herself as an old peddler woman. She put on ragged clothes, smeared dirt on her face, and practiced hunching over. Then she prepared a poisoned apple, one that would put Snow White into an eternal sleep. She cackled with glee as she held the red, shiny apple in her hand. Chapter 5. The Apple, the Coffin, and the Prince. At the cottage of the dwarves the next afternoon, when the 7 dwarves were away at work, there was a knock on the door. "Who is it?" said Snow White. She remembered the warning of the 7 dwarves not to open the door to anyone. "It's only a poor old woman," came a squeaky voice, selling apples. Yet, in fact, it was the evil queen disguised as an old woman. "It's raining outside, dearie," said her voice through the door. "Please, let me in, poor thing," thought Snow White, having to go door to door selling apples in the rain. She opened the door. "Take a look at this big red apple," said the old woman, who, as you know, was really the queen in disguise. She held the red apple close to Snow White's face. "Lovely, my dear, isn't it? For only a few coins, it is yours." "I would like very much to buy your apple," said Snow White, "but I have no money." "That fine comb in your hair will make a good trade," said the old woman. "All right then," said Snow White. She gave her comb to the old woman and took the apple in return. With relish, Snow White took a big bite. Alas, the fruit was poisoned. At once, Snow White swooned to the ground, where she fell into a very deep sleep. "She is down," shouted the queen, pumping the air with her fists. Just then, the door flew open. In marched the 7 dwarfs, home from the day's work. Shocked indeed they were to find Snow White lying on the floor, and what must be her stepmother beside her, laughing. They chased the evil queen out the door and into the storm. Up to the very top of a mountain they chased her, when all of a sudden, lightning hit the mountain. The queen fell, and she was never seen again. But nothing could help poor Snow White. She stayed absolutely still in her deep sleep. The 7 dwarfs gently lifted her into a glass coffin. Day and night they kept watch over her, weeping for sorrow. One day, the prince happened to ride by the dwarf's cottage. Ever since he learned that Snow White was missing at the castle, he knew something must be terribly wrong. He hopped on his horse and had been searching for her ever since. Now, he finally found her, but in such a state. The prince lifted the lid to the glass coffin. Her face seemed so fresh, even in that deep sleep. The prince gently took one of Snow White's hands in his own and kissed it. At once, Snow White's eyes opened. With love's first kiss, the evil queen's spell was gone forever. The 7 dwarfs let out a big cheer. The prince and Snow White leaned towards each other. Delighted to find each other again, they smiled. Now, nothing stood in the way for Snow White and the prince to be together. They bid a fond farewell to the 7 dwarfs and returned to the prince's kingdom, where they could be safe and live free. Before long, they were married and lived happily ever after. Epilogue, a new beginning. Snow White and the prince's wedding was a grand affair. Royals from neighboring kingdoms, including Snow White's father, attended to celebrate their union. Castle was adorned with flowers, and the air was filled with the sweet sound of music and laughter. The 7 dwarfs were given places of honor at the ceremony, each dressed in fine clothes provided by the prince. They were thrilled to see their dear friend so happy, and they knew they would always be welcome in the new kingdom. Snow White, now a queen herself, ruled with the same fairness and kindness that her father had taught her. Prince, who admired these qualities in her, supported her in every decision. Together, they ensured that their kingdom was a place where justice and compassion reigned supreme. The 7 dwarfs visited often, and each time they came, Snow White had new stories and adventures to share. They marveled at the library the prince had built for Snow White, filled with books from all over the world. The dwarves continued their reading lessons, delighting in the new worlds that opened up to them with every turn of the page. Snow White never forgot the lessons she had learned during her time in the woods. She remembered the importance of hard work, friendship, and resilience. And though she had faced great danger, she emerged stronger and more determined to make her kingdom a better place for all. In time, Snow White and the prince had children of their own, who grew up hearing the tales of their mother's bravery and the adventures of the seven dwarfs. These stories inspired them to be brave, kind, and fair rulers in their own right. As the children grew older, the seven dwarfs became beloved figures in the kingdom, often visiting the palace to share their wisdom and skills. They taught the young princes and princesses how to mine jewels, craft beautiful objects, and respect nature's wonders. The bond between Snow White's family and the seven dwarfs grew stronger with each passing year. Snow White also established a school in the palace, where children from all over the kingdom could come to learn. The seven dwarfs played a significant role in this school, sharing their knowledge and experiences with eager young minds. The school became renowned for its teachings on fairness, kindness, and the value of hard work. As the years went by, the kingdom flourished under the wise and just rule of Snow White and her prince. The people were happy and prosperous, and peace reigned throughout the land. Snow White's legacy of fairness and compassion was felt in every corner of the kingdom. Prince, who had always admired Snow White's strength and determination, continued to support her in all her endeavors. Together, they worked to improve the lives of their subjects, ensuring that everyone had the opportunity to thrive. They built hospitals, schools, and shelters, providing care and education to those in need. Snow White and the prince's love for each other grew stronger with each passing day. They celebrated their anniversaries with grand festivals, inviting people from all over the kingdom to join in the festivities. The castle was always filled with laughter, music, and joy. In their old age, Snow White and the prince looked back on their lives with contentment. They had faced many challenges, but together they had overcome them all. Their children and grandchildren continued their legacy, ruling the kingdom with the same fairness and compassion that Snow White had always valued. The seven dwarfs, though older now, remained close friends of the royal family. They were honored guests at every family gathering and celebration. Their wisdom and experience continued to be a source of guidance for the younger generations. As the years turned into decades, Snow White's story became legend. Her tale was told and retold, inspiring countless generations to value fairness, kindness, and the importance of standing up for what is right. The kingdom she had built with her prince remained a beacon of hope and prosperity, a testament to the power of love and justice. And so, Snow White's legacy lived on, a shining example of the good that can come from bravery, kindness, and a steadfast commitment to fairness. The kingdom flourished, and its people thrived, forever grateful for the queen who had shown them the true meaning of being fair and just. Snow White and her prince lived happily ever after, their kingdom flourishing under their fair and kind rule. The seven dwarfs remained cherished friends, and the tale of Snow White's bravery and kindness was told for generations to come. Just like in our daily lives, we can learn a lot from Snow White's story. It teaches us the importance of kindness, bravery, and resilience. No matter how challenging the circumstances, staying true to our values and showing compassion can lead us to a happier ending. Snow White's journey reminds us that even in the darkest times, there is hope, and with the help of friends and loved ones, we can overcome any obstacle. Thank you for joining us tonight on Fairy Tale Nights. I hope you enjoyed this enchanting story and that it helped you relax and drift off into a peaceful sleep. If you enjoyed our story and want to hear more bedtime tales that help you unwind and find restful sleep, please consider subscribing to our channel. Your support means the world to us and ensures we can continue bringing you these soothing stories. Have a wonderful night and sweet dreams. Until next time, good night.